everyone. Morning. Welcome to the District 6 Museum. My name is Jasmine Salie. I was born in District 6. Myself, like many others, we were uprooted, torn apart and sent to the wasteland. Now the wasteland is 17.8 kilometers behind the mountain and up to 22 kilometers behind the mountain. Now I normally start with my tour. I started with a little bit of history to get you to understand how the segregation law came about, how this led to apartheid and the impact it had on the subordinate race. Now the subordinate race was the people of color. So it all started prior to 1652 when our beautiful Table Mountain was used as a refreshment station. And this is where foreign ships would come, they would refresh and they would leave. And our beautiful indigenous Khoi people, they would sit on the shores and just watch foreigners come and go. Inland, we had the Nguni tribe. So they were the Xhosas, the Zulus and the Swanis, and they were a cultural society. Now, on the shores of Cape Town, our indigenous Khoi people, they were the hunters again. Then in 1652, this is when the Dutch comes here. The Dutch take occupation of Cape Town, and over time they create a Dutch colony. Now the Dutch East Indian Company, together with the French, the Portuguese, and also the English, they also brought slaves into our country. Over time, oppressing the indigenous people, together with the slaves that came here. Then, some of the Dutch people remained in the city, but others moved inland. And those that moved inland, over time, they become the trade route. Now also causing conflict with the indigenous people inland by grabbing their land and dictating to them where they are to farm and where not. Then in 1795, this is when the English race here. The English opens up fire on the Dutch colony. They take occupation in 1798. And in 1806, they create a British colonial empire. And this is when the war ensues between the English and the Dutch. It becomes the Afrikaner over time, fighting for this beautiful land that was not even theirs to begin with. Disregarding our beautiful indigenous people on the shores of Cape Town and inland. Now, slaves is emancipated in 1834. Now, where I'm going to take you later on, the beautiful site tour, that was first called Zonnebloem. So, our beautiful slaves, they take occupation in Zonnebloem, and this is how human expansion comes about. This is also how our industrial areas comes about. Some of the slaves they actually remained working for the masters until 1838. Then 1867, the municipality goes into the 5 surrounding districts, naming those districts, and they arrive behind this building and they say this would now be District 6. So District 6 was dubbed in 1867. Then comes 1903 and the bloody war between the English and the Afrikaner comes to an end with one agreement. And this agreement was white supremacy, however that they hated one another. 1930, our indigenous people comprising nearly of 18% of the population, they're given 13% of their very own land. They also removed from the voters' roll in 1936. Then comes 1948. Now 1948, many atrocities occurred throughout the world. And in South Africa, this is now when the National Party, comprising of Europeans that stayed behind, Jewish people that came here as refugees, and then of course the Afrikaner. They comprise of this National Party. But the lawmakers is the Afrikaner. And now they decide we are ready to execute apartheid because they are nearly self-sufficient. Apartheid was created primarily to tear the subordinate race apart. Later on, divide land by the color of our skin, uproot us from the only homes that we knew, separating families, communities from one another, and we became strangers. And also the mere fact that people started to destroy themselves, far away from resources. Then the first cruel law of apartheid that came about was the Mixed Marriages Act was abolished. So this was in 1949, because Cape Town was a port city, melting pot, people marrying across the color bar. So now, no more marrying across the color bar. Another law came about, and this was now Immorality Act, preventing, also setting further boundaries, whereby colored, black and Indian, they could socialize, but they could no longer socialize with the white person. Then another law came about, and this is what we call the population register, where each South African were compelled to go to the race classification office, and this is how a panel of Afrikaner would sit, and they would decide which sibling would be classified as white, which sibling would be classified as colored, and which sibling would be classified as mixed, tearing families apart. Now, if you look at the Stompas, now Indian people together with Chinese people, they came here as migrant workers, together with our indigenous people, as early as 1760, were compelled to carry this little pass. And it was an identity card. In 1760, this was to force them to work in farms, and was also to check their whereabouts. Then with the apartheid, this Dawn Pass was primarily created to keep at bay our indigenous people coming into the city to toil, because white people feared this influx of black people coming into the city. Now, how a colored person, now colored, black and Indian, this derived from this law, because this is when they decided to classify human beings into different categories. So how a black person, a dark person, and a little bit of light complexion person would be classified. They would look at your skin tone, they would look at your features, they would look at your eyes and your hair. And they would have the audacity to put a writing pen in your head, and they would say, shake your head.
Shake your head.
Shake your head. If the pen remains stuck in your head, be either classified as a black person, Xhosa, Zulu, Swani, or be classified as a colored person. Now I want you to come closer and look at her. Look at her hair. She was classified as a kleurling in Afrikaans. Kleurling is in Afrikaans, but in English, she was classified as a Cape colored, primarily because of her hair. Then this is the Cape Malay. So the Cape Malays came here from Indonesia as slaves too. So when I was born, I was classified as a Cape Malay, but my mother was classified as mixed. Right now, and this is a clear indication of how siblings would have been torn apart. They're not related, but you're not looking at the hair is the same, the skin tone is the same. Now you're looking at green, blue eyes, sharp features. Then here you're looking at dark eyes, and you're looking at round features. So she was classified as a white person, and he was classified as a colored person. But if you look at them, they could have been related somehow. And this is how this brutal law of apartheid tore human beings apart. And this is when my mom and her two siblings, they go to the race classification office. My mom and her brother are classified as mixed. Mixed also means you're still a colored person, go back home. But Blanche and Kathleen were classified as white. Now, if you were classified as a white person, it meant opportunity and privileges, but you're going to be torn away from your family. Because Blanche could only go home to pack her bags and then leave. Later on meets Bob, gets married, leaves South Africa as a young woman, leaves for the States, and Blanche returns 40 years later as an old woman. Now, if you are married across the color bar, you go to this office, you beseech them, please classify me the same as my partner, because I want to remain with my partner. If you were not classified the same as your partner, you either have to separate, leave the country, or find a place to live in hiding to be together. Now, my Aunt Kathleen and my Uncle Danny, they were living in hiding in District 6. Now, District 6 comprised of Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity we regarded ourselves as one human race. There was no apartheid in District 6. The giving, the sharing, the compassionate towards one another, that family unity, that community unity, the fact that we celebrated Christmas together, the fact that we celebrated when it was my Christmas together, and how people, the one didn't have, the other one would give. And that was lost. That's lost to this very day. The respect that we have towards one another, that's gone today. Right? So now, coming back to this. So whenever my Aunt Kathleen and my Uncle Danny stepped out of District 6, she would lead the way and you would follow her from a distance. Getting onto the bus, she could comfortably sit downstairs, but his place was upstairs. And he decides to defy the law by sitting next to his wife. And he's taken into custody twice. And the second time, he says, no, Kathleen, let's pack our bags and leave District 6. Right? It didn't end there. Because in 1950, the Group Areas Act came about. And this is when the government decided black, colored, and Indian could no longer live in the same area as white people. You could no longer live next to a white person and opposite a white person.
Oh,
and this is when the law decided, let's choose 42 sites. 42 sites. So from District 6 to Plumstead, 42 sites around the mountain inland coastline was classified for white people only. So colored, black, and Indian people that lived amongst white people around the mountain inland coastline, uprooted and sent to places that they've never been before. There was no human rights. Now District 6 from the 42 sites became a war zone in 1968. Now on the 11th of February 1966, proclamation widely publicized, District 6 is now a white area. But I was born in District 6, but you're no longer welcome in District 6. And the elders said, you know, it's not going to happen. But in 1968, they sent in the bulldozers, the lorries, and the front loaders. And we were so astounded by this foreign machinery coming into District 6. So I want to show you what was and what became of District 6, a part of what you're going to see when we do the site tour, when we're done here. So now I just want you to look at this here. So District 6, the beach. We could literally walk to the beach. District 6, we're on the threshold of the city. District 6, look at this patch of land here. So this is how the bulldozers and the front loaders moved in to slowly demolish our homes. Then you look at this here. District 6 was a little London town. 66,000 people like myself living here happily. And then between 1968 and 1982, this beautiful District 6 gone.
Wow.
Hopes and dreams shattered. Expectations gone. So, come 1984, and they decided, let's build this university. This university was primarily built to upgrade middle-class white people. These homes down here, these homes up here, is our existing homes to this very day. Now these homes were left for the world to see, yes, District 6 is indeed declared a white area, but it's not. Now, this used to be our marketplace, so my grandmother was a poultry vendor, so she, like others, would come here to sell her daily produce. The highways and the railway lines came about later when we were sent to the wasteland. Now, my primary school was right here, my St. Mark's School. I went to the St. Mark's School for 7 years. And I went to the St. Mark's Church for 7 years as a Muslim. Because this is how it was in districts. If you go to church, others would come to the mosque with us. And this is how we learned one another's religion. And this is how we live as one human race. And I always say, There'll never be a community like was the way we live. However, we were oppressed and dictated to the very max. We maintained our dignity and the love that we had towards one another. Christmas time in my home, my mom and dad were both dancers. So we always had this gramophone with this beautiful classical music back in the days of Mario Lanza. Now, when my Aunt Kathleen passed on, my mom became the custodian of her 5 children. So at Christmas time, we always had a Christmas tree. And my mom would cook the most delectable dish for Aunt Kathleen's children that she would for us, and it was our Christmas. But this time, the Christmas pudding with the tikkies. And with that ticket was a 2.5 cents. With the ticket, I could go to the movie house by myself. We were free spirit and safe in District 6 because there was law and order. Was the saying was, you do the crime, you shall do the time. So there was hardly any crime in District 6. So coming back to the movies, with the sticky, I could go to the movies, watch 2 black and white movies of Greta Garbo, Elizabeth Taylor, Betty Davis, etc., without anyone bothering me. And then myself and my brother and on Kathleen's children, they would stand in line to wait to dance with my papa. And I always say Lutheran Vanguards dance with my father again. I danced with my father so many times. And this also came to it. So we had a lot of beautiful things in District 6. Then comes democracy, 1994. Oh, and we're all rushing. Our lives is going to change now. No. We're in a much worse position than we've ever been before. Our very poor people are living in the most inhumane circumstances and conditions. Then we have young people, academics, no jobs. And they succumb to crime. And we're burying them every day. So our visitors are not seeing the Cape Flats. You're only seeing the townships. But you're not actually seeing what's transpiring on the Cape Flats of our young people. So we're losing diamonds every day. So we're fighting a war of corruption, incompetent government, we're fighting crime, we're fighting poverty, we're fighting homelessness, inequality. And then on top of this, our young people that we're losing, and the mere fact that our people are living in the most inhumane conditions. Very sad. So, also now with democracy, we're told we're going to compensate you, we're giving back what was taken from you. And this is called restitution. We are not even talking about reparation. The suffering from day one, we were uprooted from these beautiful homes and then sent to the wasteland. So we could either take 18,500 rand, which was a disgrace. You cannot give me 18,500 rand, even if you give me a couple million. I want to come back and this is my roots. So some said, let's take the money. You're never going back. Maybe they were right. Now, during democracy, there was only 3 budgets. There's never a budget. So all they've done was they took these 2 pockets of land, less than 200 homes, and even Mandela came and he cut the ribbon and that was it. Then 2014, they jumped from year to year. And this is when they built 108 apartment houses, no elevator. And the ages are 18, 90 and busy dying. The busy dying said, you know what, I'm not going back. Because I'm dying, what am I going to do here? So it was a whole new beginning. It was an immense challenge to this very day. Being sent to places that you've never been before. Torn from your family, friends and neighbors. And yet again, it's another challenge coming back. Because many have passed on. Many have taken the money, so it's not the same people that's coming back. So we have old and the young that's coming back to this. My cousin moved in last year at the age of 82, very vibrant man. And he said, come, you must come see my house. So now we go. And then a couple of months later, heart attack, and then we're burying him. So we either not going back, or we're going back and we live a short time in District 6. The place where we were once so happy as this beautiful community and family together. Right? My mom died 6 years ago at the age of 89, also on a waiting list. I'm also on a waiting list. So we were sent 17.8 kilometers behind this mountain. Some has been sent as far as 28 kilometers behind the mountain. So now you arrive on the wasteland. We were sent to Hanover Park, a complete farmstead, and here you come from the city. Animals that you've never seen with your naked eye. 2 farmhouses and the farmer around on his horse. And was just expected, now you adapt to this whole new way of life on the wasteland. The apartment house that we were sent to, 60 apartments, 60 families. And we were only 3 families in one apartment. The other 57 came from all the other areas. So to this day, we are still strangers to one another, and family will really just gather if somebody dies or when there's a wedding. And on this wasteland, we have visible Berlin walls. If I say visible Berlin walls, I'm talking about highways stretching out. Colored people one side, black people one side, Indian people one side. To this very day, this is how we feel further separated. And only the rich and the middle class over time have moved out to the city and the suburbs, but the poor will find them on the wasteland, struggling to this very day, very sad. Now this used to be one of the streets in District 6. Busy like this every day. I'm going to show you all the other streets on the map. So this very street to this day, bearing in mind the landmark, gone. One street only. Right? So if there's no question, I want to take you on to the landmark, the Romeo and Juliet of District 6. Because District 6 had many Romeo and Juliets, and we had to leave our Romeo and Juliets behind. And many sometimes often, what happened to their Romeo and Juliets back then? Right? Now, this is my Aunt Blanche, gets married, leave. This is when she comes back 40 years later. Now, this is my mother when she got married to my father. That's my Uncle Archie, also fought in World War II. Now, my family, this is my husband. That's my eldest daughter. That's my second eldest daughter. That's my third eldest daughter. And look at my beautiful son. So even I have my very own rainbow nation. And this is what we all have to this very day. The melting pot, coming back from there, and then what we have to this very day. So with the mosque and the churches every day. So the congregation, the line, they still come to worship these worship lists. And I want to show you this when we go out to site now. This school was left behind. There's 2 more schools on that side, and those are very homes to this very day. But this is what became of 66,000 homes that was demolished between 1968 and 1982, and a beautiful community uplifted, torn apart, and sent to different places on the wasteland, becoming complete strangers to this very day. So whenever the city has this immense event, we all rush there. Oh, we're going to find somebody that we haven't seen so many years. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And you also have to look once, twice, and thrice, because now you've also aged over the years. Right? But we are still in the battle. So we are hoping next year we have an election. So we're hoping our young people especially is going to go out there and vote as well. Okay? So the toilet is through the door, so whoever wants to go to the bathroom can go, and 10 past 10